There is something peculiar about waking up in the middle of the night, something that escapes common reasoning and delves straight into the mystery of existence. It feels like a subtle call, as if the universe has chosen the perfect moment to whisper truths that only silence could reveal. Waking up at 3 a.m. is not simply a whim of the body. It is a phenomenon that resonates with deeper layers of being, where the soul and mind meet at the threshold between dream and wakefulness. In the dense silence of the early hours, when the world seems suspended between breath and oblivion, we find a portal to ourselves. At this moment, the noise of daily obligations vanishes, and stillness becomes a living presence. Lao Tzu taught that silence is the most essential truth, and perhaps this is why it weighs so profoundly in the hours of the night. It feels as though the world itself is meditating, offering us the chance to also become silence, to inhabit a pure state of being. Picture yourself opening your eyes at this time. Everything around you is motionless, as if the earth itself is waiting for something. The air feels denser, charged with meaning, and although you might not name this sensation, it vibrates in every cell of your body. It is an invitation, a rare opportunity to be with yourself. No distractions, no masks, only the truth that resides within you. Perhaps we wake not because our body is restless, but because our soul demands attention. There is a spiritual urgency in this moment. It feels as if something beyond us is trying to communicate that life, so immense and complex, sometimes finds its fullness in the simple act of stopping and listening. The early hours, with their veil of mystery, become a companion, a guide leading us to reflections seldom found in the light of day. If we look closely, we will notice that waking at 3 a.m. is no coincidence. It is a pattern that seems to repeat for many, as though we are connected by invisible threads to a greater purpose. In this interval of time when everything feels still, there is a unique energy pulsing, almost like a reminder that life happens in layers we cannot see but can deeply feel. It is a moment to open the eyes of the soul and see beyond the obvious. Have you ever felt that strange peace upon waking at this hour? It feels as though you are exactly where you should be, even if you don't know why. The heart beats slower yet more intensely, as if tuning into a frequency only silence can reach. In this state, we are invited to explore ourselves, to listen to what lies within us, far from the distractions of the day and the voices of others. This experience is not an accident but a phenomenon to be embraced with reverence. Perhaps life, in its wisdom, gifts us these moments to remind us that we are more than our worries, more than our fears. We are silence. We are presence. We are what remains when everything else dissolves. The early hours carry a meaning that transcends time and space. For many cultures and spiritual traditions, this period, especially around 3 a.m., is seen as a connection between worlds. It is a magical interval, a moment when the veil between the material and the immaterial feels thinner, allowing dimensions invisible to the ordinary eye to reveal themselves in their full depth. The number 3, so present at this hour, resonates as a universal archetype. In its purest form, it symbolizes balance and harmony, body, mind, and spirit, past, present, and future, birth, life, and death. The number 3 is a metaphor for totality, the union of opposites in a point of convergence. It is no coincidence that this number appears in so many spiritual traditions. In Christianity, it is the Trinity. In Sufism, it represents the interaction between the lover, the beloved, and love itself. In Buddhism, it is the triple refuge, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The early hours, with their sacred quiet, become the perfect stage for these symbols to manifest. Many religious texts highlight the importance of this hour for spiritual practice. Sufis wake before dawn to seek divine love in their dances and prayers. In Islam, the pre-dawn period known as Tahajjud is considered ideal for supplication, a time when the doors of divine mercy are most open. For Buddhist monks, the early hours are dedicated to meditation, when the mind is still untouched by the chaos of the external world. Even in Christianity, the symbolism of the early hours as a time of vigil and prayer echoes Christ's call in Gethsemane, "Watch and pray." This hour, which many of us initially perceive as an unwanted interruption of sleep, may actually be a divine opportunity. Imagine the early hours as an invisible temple, a sacred space where everything aligns so we can connect with the highest within us and around us. It is a moment of receptivity, free from distractions, when our soul is most open to hearing the murmurs of the universe. The symbolism of the early hours also points to rebirth. Just as night precedes day, the darkness we experience can be the prelude to new light. Every awakening at 3 a.m. reminds us that we are constantly being called to be reborn, to leave the old behind and embrace the new. It is as if the early hours themselves whisper that there is still time, that the day has not yet begun, and we have a chance to realign our intentions before facing the world once more. Why then ignore this call? Waking at this hour may be uncomfortable, but it is also an invitation to transcendence. Instead of fighting against lost sleep, we can surrender to the mystery of the early hours, recognizing them as a gift. A gift that teaches us to value silence, introspection, and our connection with the infinite. Time, so concrete on our clocks, reveals itself as a mystery when viewed through a philosophical lens. Waking at 3 a.m. invites us to abandon the linear, chronological notion of time and dive into its qualitative, profound, almost poetic dimension. At this moment, time is not just a measure but a portal, an invitation to introspection and the discovery of our being. Martin Heidegger, in his Search for the Essence of Time, reminds us that it is not merely a sequence of moments but something we live in its fullness. When we awaken in the silence of the early hours, we are thrust into what the Greeks called kairos, an opportune time, a moment laden with meaning where the eternal touches the present. This is not an ordinary moment but an opening, a chance to experience life in its depth, free from the limitations imposed by routine. Waking at 3 a.m. seems to coincide with an inner movement, as if something within us aligns with a greater synchronicity. Carl Jung, in his discussion of synchronicity, described it as a meaningful coincidence, a link between external events and our inner world. In this sense, waking at this hour is not mere chance. It is a sign, a message that transcends logic and invites us to reflect. Perhaps the universe is telling us that this is the exact moment to look inward, to question, to feel. There is something powerful in realizing that time is not a prison but a possibility. When we wake during this almost mystical interval, we are challenged to abandon haste and embrace depth. It feels as if the cosmos itself offers us a pause, a moment of suspension where everything, past, present, and future, converges in a single point. At this hour, our consciousness, freed from the distractions of the day, becomes more attuned to truths we usually ignore. Time in this context is more than a ticking hand. It is a mirror. The early hours reflect who we are when no one is watching, when we are not pressured to play roles or meet expectations. It is an interval where we can be authentic, vulnerable, present. In this state, we gain a new perception of ourselves and the world. Synchronicity then ceases to be an abstract idea and becomes a living experience. Waking at this hour is in itself a revelation. In this moment of suspension, we realize that life is not merely a sequence of events but a dance between the visible and the invisible, the tangible and the transcendent. Waking up at 3 a.m. serves as a reminder that we are connected to something greater, something beyond our everyday understanding. It is a portal to awakening, a gift from the universe that offers us the chance to live in kairos, a time beyond time where the soul can breathe and rediscover itself. The early hours of the morning act as a dark mirror, reflecting the most hidden parts of our psyche. When we wake at 3 a.m., we are not just facing the external silence. We are being invited to dive into the vast, mysterious ocean of the unconscious. In this suspended state between sleep and wakefulness, our conscious self, with all its defenses, gives way to something deeper, older, and more essential. Carl Jung described the unconscious as a rich and complex realm where our shadow resides, the parts of ourselves we prefer to avoid, reject, or forget. The silence of the early morning confronts us with this shadow, not as a punishment but as an opportunity for integration. Waking at this hour feels as though the soul itself is calling us for an intimate conversation, to face repressed emotions, hidden fears, and unfulfilled desires. The environment of the early hours intensifies this experience. The darkness surrounding us reflects the inner darkness we often avoid exploring. Yet, it is precisely in this darkness that transformation becomes possible. Jung reminds us that what we resist persists, but what we accept can be transmuted. Waking at 3 a.m. is an invitation to confront these forgotten parts of ourselves, to embrace the unknown, and to discover that at the heart of our shadow there is light. Beyond the shadow, the early hours also open a channel for creative imagination. The unconscious, freed from the constraints of rationalism, finds a fertile space for expression during this time. This is why many people report having profound ideas or unexpected insights during these hours. The state of semi-consciousness allows images, memories, and thoughts to flow freely without the usual censorship of the conscious mind. It is as if the inner universe is reorganizing itself, offering fragments of wisdom that would go unnoticed amid the chaos of the day. There is something almost sacred about being awake in this state. Instead of fearing the silence and solitude, we can allow ourselves to listen to what the unconscious has to say. This internal dialogue, as uncomfortable as it may seem, is a bridge to self-knowledge. The early morning invites us to explore who we are in our entirety, recognizing both our light and shadow, fears and aspirations. Ultimately, this process is not a burden but a gift. By embracing what emerges from the unconscious during these hours, we move closer to wholeness. We accept that we are complex beings, composed of layers of light and darkness, and that true peace comes from integrating these dualities. Waking at 3 a.m., then, is not a coincidence or a disturbance but an opportunity for profound transformation. It is a reminder that even in the deepest darkness, there is a path to light. Waking at 3 a.m. is a rare opportunity for reconnection, a gift that, if embraced, can transform our lives. This moment, laden with symbolism and silence, is the perfect time to immerse ourselves in spiritual practices that help us integrate body, mind, and spirit. Each practice serves as a tool to access deeper layers of our being and align our essence with the cosmos. One of the simplest yet most powerful practices for this hour is meditation. Sitting in silence with closed eyes allows us to become an extension of the early morning stillness. This is not a silence of absence but a living silence, full of messages and insights. During meditation, we can focus on the breath, noticing how it anchors us to the present moment, or simply observe the thoughts that arise, letting them flow without resistance. In this state of full presence, we open ourselves to what spiritual masters called divine inspiration, a flow of wisdom that seems to arise from within yet transcends our understanding. Another powerful practice is journaling or reflective writing. The introspective atmosphere of the early hours makes it an ideal time to put down what is in your heart. This isn't about organizing thoughts or seeking coherence but letting words flow freely, like a river carrying everything it encounters. By putting our doubts, fears, dreams, and hopes on paper, we create a safe space for expression without judgment. Often, in this spontaneous writing, we reveal truths we didn't realize we held, as if the very act of writing guides us toward self-discovery. Visualization of intentions is another practice that finds fertile ground in the early morning. At this time, when our minds hover between the world of dreams and wakefulness, we are more receptive to creating powerful mental images that shape our reality. Close your eyes and visualize what you wish to manifest. Don't just see it, feel it as if it is already real. Feel the gratitude for this vision, as if you are experiencing its fulfillment. This receptive state is fertile ground for planting the seeds of intentions you wish to see grow in your life. Prayer, in turn, connects us to the divine in its most intimate form. Regardless of religious tradition, prayer at 3 a.m. carries a unique intensity, as if the silence around us amplifies our words and intentions. There's no need to follow formulas or specific rituals. Prayer can be a heartfelt conversation with the universe, an expression of gratitude, or even a plea for guidance. It is an act of surrender, acknowledging that we are part of something greater and that even in our vulnerability, we are supported by this connection. Finally, for those who prefer movement to stillness, practices like gentle stretches or yoga can help align the body with the mind. Slow, mindful movements allow us to release accumulated tension and prepare the body for a new cycle. By moving with intention, we transform each gesture into a prayer in motion, a dance that celebrates the present moment. By embracing these practices during the stillness of the early hours, we turn what might seem like an interruption into an opportunity for profound growth and alignment. Waking at 3 a.m. becomes not just an event but a transformative ritual, connecting us to the deepest parts of ourselves and the infinite universe beyond. By incorporating these practices, we say yes to the call of the early hours, honoring this unique moment as an opportunity for growth and renewal. It doesn't matter which practice we choose. What matters is being present, aware, and open to what the silence has to teach us. Waking up at 3 a.m. ceases to be a nuisance and transforms into a sacred ritual, an instant of reconnection with the deepest and truest parts of ourselves. Science and spirituality, often seen as traveling opposing paths, find surprising harmony in the phenomenon of waking at 3 a.m. While science seeks to explain this awakening through biological processes and spirituality sees it as a call from the soul, both converge in the understanding that this moment is unique, a point of intersection between the physical and the transcendent. From a scientific perspective, waking at this hour may be related to sleep cycles, known as circadian rhythms. Around 3 a.m., the body transitions between the deepest phases of sleep and the beginning of wakefulness. This is a time when cortisol levels, the stress hormone, begin to rise, preparing the body for the day ahead, while other bodily functions like digestion remain at rest. This subtle balance makes the body more sensitive, allowing small internal or external stimuli to wake us. This intermediate state between sleep and wakefulness is known as the hypnagogic state. It is a time when the mind is highly receptive, with the barriers between the conscious and unconscious softened. In this state, the brain operates at lower frequencies such as theta waves, associated with creativity, introspection, and spiritual openness. It's as if the brain exists on a threshold, a zone where the boundaries between the rational and the intuitive dissolve. Many artists, scientists, and thinkers have described this state as the birthplace of their most brilliant ideas, suggesting that even scientifically, there is something profoundly mysterious and inspiring about this hour. From a spiritual standpoint, this mental and emotional openness is seen as a window to divine connection. Mystical traditions worldwide believe that the early morning is a time when the universe is most accessible, as the distractions of the day give way to the sacred. Science supports this idea by demonstrating that during the hypnagogic state, the mind is more attuned to introspection and the perception of subtle patterns, something Carl Jung would relate to the concept of synchronicity. There are also neuroscientific explanations for the spiritual connection often experienced during the early morning hours. Studies on meditation, for instance, show that practices performed at this time amplify beneficial effects on the brain. The parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for the relaxation response, is more active, facilitating states of deep calm and focus. Additionally, the silence and darkness of the early morning create an ideal sensory environment for spiritual experiences, whether through prayer, meditation, or visualization. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this convergence between science and spirituality is our ability to transform this moment into something meaningful. Science can explain the how of waking at 3 a.m., but spirituality provides the why. By aligning these perspectives, we can recognize that the body and mind, the material and the immaterial, are intrinsically connected. What we perceive as a simple biological event may actually be an opening to something greater, a chance to transcend routine and touch the infinite. In this sense, waking at 3 a.m. is an integrated experience. It is science and spirituality in harmony, a manifestation of the everyday miracle of existence. It is not just the brain in a state of alertness or the body responding to stimuli. It is the soul, the universe, life in all its complexity manifesting in a simple yet profoundly significant instant. Waking at 3 a.m. may at first seem like an unwanted interruption, a disruption of the body's essential rest. However, when viewed from a different perspective, this moment reveals itself as a potential for spiritual, emotional, and even mental growth. Waking at this hour ceases to be an annoyance and becomes an opportunity, a crack in the fabric of routine, allowing the light of self-awareness to enter and transform us. The first step in this transformation is acceptance. Resisting the awakening, labeling it as a problem, is to ignore its deeper meaning. When we accept that something within us is seeking attention at this moment, we create the space necessary for the phenomenon to become significant. This acceptance allows us to shift the narrative. What was once seen as discomfort becomes a call, a chance for growth. The key lies in transforming the moment into a ritual, something we can intentionally integrate into our lives. The early morning, with its silence and mystery, can serve as the stage for practices that help us grow as individuals. Meditating at this hour is not just a spiritual practice but an act of courage. The courage to face ourselves, to quiet external voices, and to listen to what the soul has to say. This simple act of being present with oneself is, in itself, an exercise in transformation. Another way to integrate waking at 3 a.m. into a journey of growth is to use it as a time for reflection and planning. In these moments of calm, far from external demands, we can ask ourselves, what truly matters to me? Or how can I align my life with the values I hold dear? The answers to these questions, no matter how subtle or fragmented, have the power to guide us toward a more authentic and meaningful existence. Growth also comes from the practice of releasing what no longer serves us. Waking at this hour can be seen as an opportunity to let go of emotional burdens, limiting beliefs, and fears that hold us back. It is a moment of rebirth, where we can redefine who we are and who we want to be. It's as if the universe is offering us a blank slate to write a new story, free from external expectations and pressures. It is important to remember that growth does not happen overnight. It is a gradual process built moment by moment, choice by choice. Waking at 3 a.m. will not in itself change anyone's life. But by embracing this moment as part of a larger journey, we can use it as a stepping stone toward a fuller, more conscious, and more purpose-driven existence. Thus, waking at 3 a.m. becomes more than an isolated event. It transforms into a metaphor for life. It teaches us that even in the most unexpected and uncomfortable moments, there lies an opportunity for learning and transformation. It reminds us that growth doesn't always happen in the light of day, but often in the stillness of the early hours, when we allow ourselves to listen to what truly matters. By turning this phenomenon into an intentional habit, we are also saying yes to life in its fullness. We are accepting that discomfort is part of growth and that by embracing the unknown, we become stronger, wiser, and more connected to who we truly are. In the silence of the early morning, there is an echo that resonates both in the universe and within us. Waking at 3 a.m. is more than a curious phenomenon. It is an opportunity to view life with renewed eyes, to hear what the silence has to teach us. It is not merely a biological clock or a random pattern. It is a deeply human, deeply spiritual moment. Through this awakening, we learn that there is beauty in the pause, that time is not our enemy but an ally offering us precious moments to reflect, grow, and be reborn. In the stillness of these hours, we discover that we are part of something far greater than our daily routines and that this greater is always trying to reach us, sometimes in the middle of a dark night. The early hours teach us that life is not composed solely of lights and noises but also of shadows and silences. It is in these silences that we find answers to questions we didn't even know we had. It is in these silences that we discover that true connection doesn't come from the outside but from reuniting with the most authentic parts of ourselves. Waking at 3 a.m. is the universe's invitation to be whole, to be complete, to be true. No matter your beliefs, traditions, or path, the essence of this awakening is universal. It speaks of a moment when the soul calls us back home, reminding us of what we've forgotten in the chaos of the day. The spirituality of this hour isn't confined to prayers or practices but lies in the simple act of being present, of feeling life pulsate in all its complexity and beauty. May we embrace this moment with gratitude, with reverence, with the certainty that we are being guided toward a path of self-discovery. May we see in the silence of the early morning a mirror of our own essence, a reminder that life is layered and that as we awaken to those layers, we awaken to ourselves. Above all, may we carry this lesson into the day, into our interactions, into our challenges. Waking at 3 a.m. teaches us that there is always a new chance to begin again, that there is always a new dawn waiting for us. All we need to do is listen, feel, and trust. If you felt that this 3 a.m. awakening holds something special, share this journey with others. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to receive more reflections like this one. Share your experiences and insights in the comments. Each story is a piece of the universal puzzle we are building together. And remember, awakening begins with you. Thank you for being here.